Professor Boram Choi walked through the red dust of Mars toward the big dome that covered the old archives. She had spent most of her life studying the history that Earth's government wanted to forget. The files buried here told a very different story than what people learned in schools. The dome protected thousands of metal boxes filled with records from 3,000 years ago. Most people thought these were just old papers that nobody cared about anymore. Boram knew better. These boxes contained the real truth about humanity's first contact with aliens. Inside the dome, the air was clean and cool. Machines hummed quietly as they kept the old documents safe. Boram had been working here for 20 years, but she still felt excited every time she opened a new box. Today was special. The government had finally given her permission to read the most secret files. "Computer, open file box number 2847, she said. A robot arm moved and picked up a heavy metal box. It placed the box on Boram's desk and opened it carefully. Inside were hundreds of thin sheets made from a special material that would last forever. These were not copies or translations. These were the original reports written by people who had lived through the first alien war. Boram picked up the first sheet. It was a report written by Captain Young-Ho Park, the great-great-grandfather of Commander Hyun-Woo Park, who now worked on the space station. The date showed it was written just 1 week after humans first met aliens. Day 7 since contact, the report began. The aliens call themselves the Velkaran Empire. They seem surprised that we developed space travel so quickly. Their leader, someone called High Commander Veltar, keeps asking how we learned to build faster-than-light engines in such a short time. Boram smiled. Even 3,000 years ago, humans were impressing aliens with how fast they learned new things. She read further. The aliens have many problems. Their different races don't trust each other. Their planets are running out of food and clean water. Some of their colonies are dying from diseases. When we offered to help, they seemed shocked. Apparently, most species they meet either attack them or ask for protection. We're the first to offer assistance. The next several documents told an amazing story. Within just 1 month of meeting the Velkaran Empire, human scientists had solved problems that had puzzled aliens for centuries. Dr. Min-Soo Kim had created a new way to clean polluted water that worked on any planet. Engineer Hee-Jin Lee had designed ships that used much less fuel. Diplomat Jae-Won-Oh had helped 2 alien races stop fighting a war that had lasted for 300 years. The aliens are calling it a miracle, wrote Captain Park in another report. Every day our people come up with new solutions. Yesterday, Dr. Soo-Ho Nam figured out how to grow food in soil that the aliens thought was completely dead. The aliens say it usually takes their scientists decades to solve problems like this. Our people are doing it in days. Boram found a report from the alien side. It was written by the same High Commander Veltar that Captain Park had mentioned. Emergency report to the Velkaran Council. It said, "The humans are not what they appear to be. In just 30 days, they have advanced our civilization more than we have advanced in the last 1,000 years. Their learning speed is unlike anything we have ever encountered." The alien commander seemed worried. If this continues, the humans will surpass our technological level within 1 year. Within 10 years, they may surpass our entire understanding of science and technology. I recommend we proceed with extreme caution. But the Velkaran Council had not been cautious. Instead, they had become greedy. Boram found their response. Continue to accept human assistance. Take as much of their technology as possible. Do not let them know how much they are helping us. For the next 50 years, according to the documents, humans had continued to help the Velkaran Empire. Human doctors cured diseases that had killed millions of aliens. Human engineers built cities on planets that were supposed to be uninhabitable. Human diplomats ended wars that had raged for centuries. But the most important discovery came from a report written by Dr. Yoon-Soo Choi, Boram's own ancestor. "I have been studying Velkaran psychology," the report said. "They are not an aggressive species by nature. They fight because they are afraid. Their empire is not strong, it is desperate. They rule through fear because they do not know how to rule through respect." Dr. Choi had seen something that others missed. The different alien races that make up their empire do not work together willingly. They obey because they are afraid of being destroyed. But fear is not a good foundation for an empire. It makes people weak and suspicious. The report continued. Humans are different. We compete with each other, but we also cooperate. We fight, but we also forgive. We are not afraid to try new things, even if they might fail. This makes us stronger than the aliens. even though they have bigger ships and more soldiers. Boram found the most important document at the bottom of the box. It was written by High Commander Veltar just 3 months before the war started. Emergency alert to all Velkaran leaders, it began. We have made a terrible mistake. The humans are not just helping us, they are replacing us. The alien commander explained his fears. Human ideas are spreading through our empire faster than we can control. Our own people are starting to ask why they should obey us when the humans show them better ways to live. Entire planets are requesting human advisors instead of Velkaran governors. Worse, the report continued, our military leaders are studying human tactics. They say that human strategies are more effective than anything in our databases. If humans ever decided to take over our empire, we would not be able to stop them. The final part of the report made Boram's hands shake. I estimate that within 50 more years, the Velkaran Empire will effectively be ruled by humans, not through conquest but through simple superiority. They are better than us at everything we thought we were good at. The solution, according to High Commander Veltar, was simple. We must attack the humans before they become too powerful. We must make them afraid of us again. If we wait any longer, we will become their subjects instead of their allies. Boram found the declaration of war that the Velkaran Empire had sent to Earth 3,000 years ago. It was very different from what history books said. Humans of Earth, it began, you have violated the natural order of the galaxy. No species should advance as quickly as you have advanced. No species should learn as fast as you learn. You are a danger to the stability that we have worked thousands of years to create. The real reason for the war was not human violence. It was human excellence. The war itself had been a disaster for both sides, but especially for the aliens. Boram found battle reports that showed just how badly things had gone for the Velkaran Empire. Battle of the Outer Rim, one report said. Human fleet 200 ships. Velkaran fleet 2,000 ships. Result, Velkaran fleet destroyed. Human losses 15 ships. Battle of the Red Nebula. Human fleet 50 ships. Velkaran fleet 500 ships. Result, Velkaran fleet retreated. Human losses 3 ships. The pattern was clear. Even though the humans had fewer ships, they won almost every battle. Their tactics were better. Their weapons were more effective. And their crews learned from mistakes faster than the aliens could adapt. But the aliens had one advantage that humans could not overcome. Numbers. For every human ship, there were 100 alien ships. Even though humans won most battles, they slowly ran out of ships and people. The war ended when the Velkaran Empire offered a truce. But Boram found the real negotiations, and they were nothing like what the history books said. The humans will agree to return to their home system, one document said. In exchange, we promise not to hunt them down and destroy them completely. But there was a secret part of the treaty that most people had never seen. The Velkaran Empire admits that humans are superior in combat, technology, and diplomacy. We cannot defeat them in a fair fight. Therefore, we must ensure that they never have the chance to build a large fleet again. The truce was not mercy. It was fear. The final document in the box was a message from the last human admiral, Fleet Commander Du Young Shin. It was sent to Earth just before the human fleet surrendered. People of Earth, it said, we are going home not because we are defeated, but because we choose to. The aliens are afraid of us, and they should be. We have shown them what humans can do with just 100 years of preparation. But imagine what we could do with 1,000 years, or 3,000 years. We return to Earth not as failures, but as seeds. We will use this time to grow stronger, smarter, and more capable. When we return to the galaxy, it will not be as conquerors, but as teachers. We will show every species what they can become if they stop being afraid and start working together. Boram closed the file and sat back in her chair. The truth was clear. Humans had not lost the war because they were weak. They had lost because they were outnumbered. And now, after 3,000 years of growth and preparation, the Velkaran Empire was about to discover what humans had learned in their isolation. She picked up her communication device and sent a message to President Kim back on Earth. Sir, she wrote, I have finished reading the archives. The aliens think they are attacking the same species they fought 3,000 years ago. They have no idea how much we have changed. Fleet Admiral Tae-ho Yoon stood on the command bridge of the battleship New Horizon, watching the darkness between stars. Somewhere out there, millions of alien ships were coming toward Earth. They expected to find the same weak humans they had defeated 3,000 years ago. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Admiral, said Captain Mina Jung, his chief engineer. All systems are ready. The defense grid is online. Taeho nodded. The defense grid was humanity's first surprise for their old enemies. It was not just a collection of weapons floating in space. It was something much more advanced than that. How many alien ships are we detecting? Taeho asked. Lieutenant Jae-sung Kang checked his instruments. Our scouts report approximately 2 million ships in the main fleet. They're organized into battle groups of about 50,000 ships each. 2 million ships. 3,000 years ago, that would have been impossible for humans to fight. But 3,000 years ago, humans had not known how to bend space and time to their will. They're dropping out of faster than light. Travel now, reported Commander Hyewan Park. She was the sister of Hyunwoo Park from the space station. Like her brother, she had chosen to serve in the military, but she specialized in tactics instead of communications. The lead ships are entering our solar system. On the main screen, tiny dots of light appeared as the alien fleet became visible. There were so many ships that they looked like a moving cloud of stars. Even from billions of miles away, their numbers were impressive. Send them a message, Taeho ordered. Tell them they have one chance to turn around and leave peacefully. Message sent, Admiral, replied Communications Officer So Young Kim. No response. Taeho was not surprised. The aliens had come here to destroy humanity. They would not leave just because humans asked nicely, but it was important to offer them the choice. It showed the difference between old humanity and new humanity. Very well, Taeho said. Show them what we have learned. Chief Engineer Mina Jung pressed a series of buttons on her control panel. Deep in space around Earth's solar system, devices that had been hidden for centuries began to wake up. They did not look like weapons. They looked more like giant metal flowers with petals that opened toward the stars. Grid activation in progress, Mina announced. Gravity wells forming. The alien fleet continued moving toward Earth, probably thinking that humans were too scared to fight back. The lead ships were now close enough that their individual shapes could be seen on the screens. They were huge, each one was the size of a city. Behind them came ships that were even bigger, some as large as mountains. Then the first alien ships hit the gravity wells that Mina's devices had created. What's happening to them? Asked Lieutenant Kang, watching his screen in confusion. The alien ships had suddenly stopped moving forward. They were not damaged, but they could not go any faster toward Earth. It looked as if they were swimming through invisible thick liquid instead of empty space. The gravity wells are working perfectly, Mina explained. We're not attacking their ships. We're changing the space around their ships. What the aliens did not understand was that humans had learned to create artificial gravity. The devices hidden around the solar system were making space itself heavier in certain areas. The alien ships found themselves trapped in regions where space was so dense that they could barely move. Incoming message from the alien fleet, reported Officer Kim. Put it on the main screen, Taeho ordered. The image showed the same war marshal, Thekfon, who had declared war on humanity, but now his expression was confused instead of confident. Humans, he said. What technology is this? Our ships cannot move forward. That is correct, Taeho replied. Your ships are trapped in gravitational fields of our creation. You cannot advance, but you are not being harmed. This is your final warning to withdraw. The war marshal's face became angry. Impossible. No species has the power to control gravity on such a scale. This must be some kind of trick. Behind the war marshal, other aliens were shouting and pointing at screens that Taeho could not see. It was clear that their instruments were telling them impossible things. It is not a trick, Taeho said calmly. It is progress. This is what humans accomplished during our 3,000 years of isolation. You are lying, the war marshal shouted. No one can advance that much in such a short time. The communication ended. Taeho watched as the alien fleet tried different ways to escape from the gravity wells. Some ships fired their engines at full power but only moved very slowly. Others tried to jump back into faster-than-light travel, but the heavy space around them made that impossible. Admiral, said Commander Park, the aliens are preparing to fire their weapons at us. Let them, Taeho replied. Show them our second surprise. The alien fleet opened fire with everything they had. Millions of energy beams and explosive missiles flew toward Earth. It was enough firepower to destroy 100 planets, but the weapons never reached their targets. As soon as they left the alien ships, they entered the same heavy space that was trapping the fleet. The energy beams moved so slowly that they could be seen crawling through space like bright snakes. The missiles flew so slowly that they looked like they were barely moving at all. Their weapons are as trapped as their ships, Mina explained. In the heavy space around their fleet, even light moves slowly. Dr. Jae-sung Kang, who had been quiet during the battle, finally spoke up. Admiral, I'm detecting something interesting. The aliens are trying to communicate with each other, but their signals are also slowed down by the heavy space. Their fleet cannot coordinate properly. This was exactly what humanity had hoped would happen. The aliens were used to fighting in normal space, where their ships could move quickly and communicate instantly. In the heavy space that humanity had created, their advantages meant nothing. Time for the next phase, Taeho decided. Mina, begin construction. Construction of what? Asked Lieutenant Kang. Instead of answering with words, Mina activated another system. Throughout the solar system, machines that had been sleeping for decades came to life. They flew toward the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter and began to work. On the main screen, everyone could see what was happening. The machines were taking apart asteroids and rebuilding them into something else. In just minutes, rocky chunks of stone and metal were being transformed into sleek warships. Impossible, whispered Commander Park. How are they building ships so fast? Matter conversion, Mina explained proudly. We learned how to change any material into any other material. Those asteroids are becoming ships as fast as we can think about what kind of ships we want. Within an hour, humanity had built a fleet of 10,000 ships from asteroid material. Within 2 hours, the fleet had grown to 50,000 ships. By the end of the day, humanity would have more ships than the aliens had brought to attack Earth. But the most impressive part was not how fast the ships were built. It was how the ships moved. Activating phase technology, announced Lieutenant Kang. The newly built human ships did something that made the trapped aliens stare in shock. They began to flicker in and out of existence. One moment they were there, the next moment they were gone. Then they appeared again in completely different locations. We call it dimensional phasing, Taeho explained to his crew. Our ships can move in and out of normal space. The aliens cannot hit what they cannot see, and they cannot predict where we will appear next. The phasing ships moved through the alien fleet like ghosts. They appeared next to alien vessels, scanned them with advanced sensors, then disappeared before the aliens could react. They were not attacking, they were studying. What are our ships learning? Asked Commander Park. Everything, replied Dr. Kang. Ship designs, weapon systems, communication methods, battle tactics. After 3,000 years of isolation, we are very curious about how alien technology has developed. On the main screen, the aliens looked more confused and frightened with each passing minute. Their massive fleet was trapped and helpless while tiny human ships appeared and disappeared around them, like insects studying trapped animals. War Marshal. Thekvon appeared on the communication screen again. This time his voice shook with fear and anger. What are you? He demanded. You cannot be the same species we defeated before. We are exactly the same species, Taeho replied. We are human. We have simply had 3,000 years to think about our mistakes and correct them. This is impossible. No species can advance this much. You keep saying that word, Taeho observed. Impossible. But you are seeing proof that it is possible. Perhaps the problem is not with reality. Perhaps the problem is with your imagination. The War Marshal's image flickered and disappeared. A few minutes later, Officer Kim reported that the aliens were trying to retreat. They are attempting to escape the gravity wells, she said, but their ships are moving very slowly. Let them go, Taeho ordered. But make sure they understand the lesson. As the alien fleet struggled to escape from the heavy space around Earth, humanity's phasing ships appeared one final time. But instead of studying the aliens, they did something completely unexpected. They began to repair damage to the alien ships. Sir? Asked Commander Park. Why are we helping them? Because, Taeho replied, we want them to go home safely and tell everyone what they saw here fear makes. War Marshal Thekvon stood in the command center of his flagship, trying to understand the reports that kept flowing in from across the galaxy. 3 weeks had passed since his fleet had retreated from Earth, and the news from home was getting worse every day. Another colony has declared independence, reported his assistant, Subcommander Rick Vaughn. That makes 17 worlds in the past week. Thekvon felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Which one this time? Zalara Prime. They say they no longer recognize Velkaran authority. They want to join something called the Human Alliance. The Human Alliance. That was the name the rebels were using for their new organization. But Thekvon knew the truth. There was no human fleet conquering planets. The humans were doing something much worse. They were convincing people to join them willingly. How is this possible? Thekvon asked. The humans never left their solar system. How are they communicating with our colonies? Intelligence officer So Young Kim had the answer to that question. But she was 40,000 light-years away on a space station hidden near the edge of Velkaran space. For the past 3,000 years, humans had been building secret listening posts throughout the galaxy. They had been watching, learning, and planning. So Young's job was to monitor alien communications and find ways to help oppressed peoples within the Velkaran Empire. It was not difficult work. The Empire was full of suffering that could easily be prevented with human technology. Station 7 to Earth Command. So Young spoke into her communicator. I have another situation that needs attention. The reply came from Ambassador Wu Jin Lee, who was coordinating humanity's diplomatic efforts from a base on the moon. What's the problem, Station 7? The planet Kethamora is having a food crisis, So Young reported. Their crops are failing because of a disease that's spreading through their main grain plants. The local Velkaran governor is demanding higher taxes instead of sending help. The people are starting to starve. Understood, Ambassador Lee replied. Medical team is already preparing. We'll have the cure ready for delivery within 6 hours. This was how humanity fought its new war. Instead of sending soldiers to conquer planets, they sent doctors to cure diseases. Instead of demanding surrender, they offered solutions. Instead of ruling through fear, they earned loyalty through kindness. On Kethamora, the blue-skinned aliens who lived there had never seen anything like the small ship that appeared in their sky. It was sleek and beautiful, completely different from the dark, threatening vessels that the Velkaran military used. The ship landed in the main city square, and a single human stepped out. Dr. Shungho Bei was a specialist in alien biology who had spent decades learning how to adapt human medical knowledge to work on different species. People of Kethamora, he announced in their native language. We have heard about your crop disease. We would like to help. The crowd that gathered around him was suspicious at first. They had been taught that humans were dangerous monsters who wanted to destroy all other life in the galaxy. But Dr. Bei looked nothing like a monster. He was small, friendly, and clearly more interested in helping than hurting. Who are you? Asked Elder Vextar, the leader of the local community. Why would you want to help us? We are humans, Dr. Bei replied simply. We help because helping is what we do. Within hours, Dr. Bei had identified the disease that was killing their crops and developed a cure that could be mass-produced using materials found on their own planet. Within days, the disease was completely eliminated. Within weeks, Kethamora was growing more food than it had ever grown before. But the most important change was in how the people felt about humans. The Velkaran governor told us that humans were evil, Elder Vextar said to Dr. Bei as he prepared to leave. But you saved our world. You asked for nothing in return. Why did the governor lie to us? Dr. Bei smiled sadly. Perhaps because he was afraid that if you knew the truth about humans, you might start asking why you need Velkaran governors at all. This conversation was happening on hundreds of worlds throughout the Velkaran Empire. General Kyungmin-Oh was leading humanitarian missions to planets suffering from wars that had raged for decades. She would arrive with a small team of negotiators and engineers, spend a few weeks understanding the problem, then propose solutions that seemed obvious once someone explained them. On the world of Trixalta, 2 different alien species had been fighting over water rights for 300 years. General O's team built a system that cleaned polluted water so efficiently that there was now more clean water than both species could use. The war ended overnight. On the planet Mordun, the local population was dying from a plague that their doctors could not cure. General O's medical team not only cured the plague, but taught local doctors how to prevent similar diseases in the future. The grateful population asked to join the Human Alliance immediately. Each world that humans helped became a beacon for other planets. The news spread faster than the Velkaran Empire could control it. Worlds that had never heard of humans before began sending secret messages asking for help. Back on his flagship, War Marshal Thekvon was reading reports that made him more afraid with each passing day. The humans have technology that we cannot understand, one report said. They can cure diseases in days that our best doctors cannot cure in years. They can end wars that have lasted for centuries just by showing people better ways to solve their problems. Another report was even more disturbing. The humans are not conquering planets. They are liberating them. Every world they visit becomes stronger, healthier, and more prosperous. Our own people are starting to ask why we cannot do the same things. The worst report came from Thekfon's own intelligence officers. Human agents have infiltrated our communication networks. They are not stealing information, they are sharing it. They are teaching our own people about advanced technology, better medicine, and more efficient ways to organize society. Thekfon realized that humanity was not just fighting the Velkaran Empire. They were making it irrelevant. Dr. Heejin Nam, humanity's greatest philosopher-scientist, was working from a research station orbiting Jupiter. Her job was to study the social structures of different alien civilizations and find ways to help them become more stable and prosperous. The Velkaran Empire is not actually an empire, she explained to President Kim during their weekly meeting. It's a protection racket. The different alien species pay taxes and follow orders because they're afraid of being attacked by raiders and pirates. And where do the raiders and pirates come from? President Kim asked. From planets that are too poor and desperate to survive any other way, Dr. Nam replied. The Velkaran Empire creates the very problems it claims to solve. This gave humanity a new strategy. Instead of fighting the Velkaran military directly, they began helping the raiders and pirates. Dr. Nam's teams would find planets where people had turned to crime because they had no other options. Then they would offer those people something better. Captain Du Young Shin was one of the officers carrying out these missions. His ship would approach known pirate bases, but instead of attacking, he would broadcast a simple message. This is Captain Shin of the Human Alliance. We know that you turned to raiding because your planet lacks resources. We would like to offer you an alternative. Most pirates expected this to be a trick, but Captain Shin would prove his good intentions by helping them solve their problems without asking for anything in return. On the asteroid base of Kolves, a group of desperate aliens had been raiding merchant ships for decades because their homeworld had no water or fertile soil. Captain Shin's engineers showed them how to extract water from ice asteroids and how to grow food in artificial soil. Within months, the former pirates had become successful miners and farmers. Why are you doing this? Asked their leader, a scarred alien named Grixitar. We have been your enemies. We have attacked ships carrying human goods. You attacked because you were hungry and desperate, Captain Shin replied. Now you are fed and hopeful. That makes you our friends, not our enemies. Word of these conversions spread throughout the criminal underground. Pirate groups began contacting humans directly, asking for help instead of raiding ships. The Velkaran Empire found that the raiders they had used as an excuse for their harsh rule were disappearing. But the most devastating blow to Velkaran authority came from an unexpected source. Fleet Admiral Tae Ho-yoon made contact with individual alien species within the Empire and offered them something that the Velkaran leaders had never provided. The truth. We have been monitoring your civilization for 3,000 years. Admiral Yoon explained in a broadcast that reached every world in the Empire. We have seen how you live, how you suffer, and how you dream. We know that most of you never wanted to be part of an empire. You joined because you were afraid of being destroyed if you did not. The broadcast continued. We offer you a choice. You can continue living under Velkaran rule, paying taxes to support a military that keeps you afraid, or you can join the Human Alliance where every world governs itself and no one lives in fear. But what do humans gain from this? Asked a caller from one of the listening worlds. Why would you offer us freedom without asking for anything in return? Admiral Yoon smiled. Commander Hyunwoo Park floated in the control room of the space station called New Seoul. The station moved around Earth like a big metal moon. Every day for the past 5 years, Hyunwoo watched the empty space between stars. Nothing ever happened. Today felt different. The coffee in his cup still steamed when all the screens in the room started flashing red. Loud beeps filled the air. Hyunwoo pushed himself toward the main computer. His heart beat faster. In all his years working on the station, he had never seen so many warning signals at once. What is happening? Asked Lieutenant Sora Kim. She worked at the station next to his. Her face looked worried as she stared at her screen. I don't know, Hyunwoo said. He touched buttons on his control panel. The computer showed that a huge signal was coming from deep space. It was bigger than anything they had ever seen before. Call Earth Control. Tell them we have something big. The signal grew stronger every second. Soon it was so powerful that every radio, television, and computer on Earth would receive it. Hyunwoo watched the numbers on his screen climb higher and higher. This was not some small message from a lost space probe. This was something that wanted the whole planet to listen. Down on Earth, people stopped what they were doing. In Seoul, workers looked up at the big screens in the city center. In New York, families gathered around their televisions. In Tokyo, students put down their books. Everyone waited to see what would happen next. The signal finally became clear. The image showed a creature that looked like a giant lizard wearing metal armor. Its eyes glowed red and sharp teeth filled its mouth. Behind it stood other strange beings. Some looked like walking plants, others like living rocks, and some like giant insects. People of Earth, the creature said. Its voice was deep and scary. I am Supreme War Marshal Tekvon of the Velkaran Empire. We ruled 12 different alien races across the galaxy. 3,000 years ago, your ancestors signed a treaty with us. That treaty is now finished. Hyunwoo felt cold fear run down his back. 3,000 years ago? He had learned about this in school, but most people thought it was just an old story. The teachers said that long ago humans had fought aliens in space. The humans lost and promised to stay near Earth forever. Most people believed it was just a myth. Your people were sent back to the small corner of space because you were too wild and dangerous. The War Marshal continued. We gave you 3,000 years to learn how to be peaceful. We hoped you would become better. But we see now that humans never change. On the screen, other alien creatures moved closer to the War Marshal. Some had many arms, others had wings instead of legs. All of them looked angry and ready to fight. We have watched you from far away, the War Marshal said. You still fight wars on your planet. You still hurt each other. You still take more than you need. This proves that humans will always be a danger to peaceful civilizations. In the government building in Seoul, President Ji-hoon Kim watched the message with his advisors. They all sat around a long table in a room deep underground. The president's face stayed calm, but his hands were tight on his chair. Therefore, the War Marshal announced, the Velkaran Empire has decided that humanity must be judged. You have 72 hours to surrender without fighting. After that time, our fleets will destroy every human city and space station. Your species will end and the galaxy will be safe. The alien's image disappeared. For a moment, silence filled every room on Earth where people had been watching. Then the screaming started. Some people ran into the streets in panic. Others called their families. Many just stood still, too shocked to move. But in the underground room where the president sat, something unexpected happened. President Kim started to smile. Then he began to chuckle. Soon he was laughing so hard that tears ran down his face. Sir? Asked his main advisor, General Woo Bin Lee. Are you okay? The president could not stop laughing. Soon other people in the room began to smile too. The president's laughter was the kind that made other people want to laugh, even when they did not know why. They really don't know, President Kim said between laughs. After all this time, they still have no idea what we've become. Dr. Soo-Jin Lee, the country's top expert on alien history, walked into the room. She had been studying old records in the basement when the message arrived. She carried a thick folder filled with papers and old photos. Mr. President, she said, I have been reading the real files from 3,000 years ago. The story is not what we were taught in school. The president wiped tears from his eyes and tried to stop laughing. Tell us, Dr. Lee. The aliens did not send us away because we were too violent, Dr. Soo-Jin said. She opened her folder and pulled out old pictures. They sent us away because they were afraid of us. Look at these. She showed them pictures of spaceships from long ago. The human ships looked small and simple next to the huge alien vessels. But there were notes written on the pictures that told a different story. According to these records, humans had only been in space for 100 years when we met the aliens, Dr. Soo-Jin explained. But in that short time, we had already created technology that impressed them. Our ships were faster. Our weapons were more effective. Our people learned their languages in just a few months. She turned to another page. The aliens ruled a huge empire, but they were having problems. Their different races were fighting each other. They were running out of resources. Some of their planets were dying. President Kim listened carefully. His laughter had stopped, but he still smiled. The humans offered to help, Dr. Sujin continued. We shared our technology with them. We helped them solve problems between their different races. We showed them how to make their planets healthy again. In just 50 years, the Velcaran Empire became stronger than it had ever been. So why did they attack us? General Lee asked. Because they realized that in 50 more years, humans would be the ones running their empire, Dr. Sujin said. Our people were not just good at fighting. We were good at everything. We learned fast, we solved problems that seemed impossible, and we made friends with everyone we met. The president stood up and walked to a window that showed the city above ground. Even though they were underground, he could imagine all the people up there, scared and confused. The war 3,000 years ago was not about punishment, he said. It was about fear. The aliens were afraid that humans would take over their galaxy, so they attacked us first. But we lost, General Lee pointed out. Did we? President Kim asked. He turned back to face the room. Dr. Lee, tell me, how long did that war last? Dr. Sujin looked through her papers. According to these records, the war lasted only 6 months. And how many alien ships did we destroy in those 6 months? The reports say we destroyed over half of their entire fleet. The room became quiet. Everyone was thinking about what this meant. Humans had only been in space for 100 years. The aliens had been there for thousands of years. But in 6 months of fighting, humans had nearly won. They did not send us away to teach us a lesson, President Kim said. They sent us away because they knew that if they gave us any more time, we would win. The treaty was not mercy. It was the only way they could survive. General Lee looked confused. But sir, if that's true, then why are they attacking us now? President Kim started laughing again. Because they think we spent 3,000 years sitting here doing nothing. They think we are still the same people who lost that war long ago. Dr. Sujin smiled. They have no idea what we have learned in 3,000 years of being alone. The president walked back to his chair and sat down. General Lee, please send a message to the Velcaran Empire. Tell them we received their declaration of war. What should the message say, sir? President Kim thought for a moment. Then he smiled the biggest smile of his life. Tell them that humanity accepts their challenge, and tell them we're looking forward to it. Up on the space station New Seoul, Commander Hyunwoo Park watched Earth's response go out to the aliens. He wondered what the Velcaran Empire would think when they heard humanity laughing at their threats. Soon, they would understand that the 3,000-year truce was indeed over. But this time things would be very different. War Marshal Thekvon stood on the bridge of his command ship, looking at the largest fleet in Velcaran history. He had gathered every warship from across the empire, over 10 million vessels carrying the most advanced weapons his people had ever created. This was his final chance to prove that the old ways were still the best ways. Behind him, the remaining Velcaran leaders watched nervously as their ultimate fleet prepared for battle. They had lost over half their empire to human influence in just 6 months. Worlds that had obeyed them for thousands of years were now openly rebelling. If this attack failed, the Velcaran Empire would cease to exist. All fleets report ready for combat, announced his tactical officer. We have confirmed that the human home system contains only 50,000 defensive ships. Thekvon nodded. Even if humans had improved since their last encounter, 10 million ships against 50,000 seemed like impossible odds to overcome. This time, the sheer number of Velcaran vessels would overwhelm any tricks the humans might use. Begin the final assault, Thekvon ordered. Today we remind the galaxy why the Velcaran Empire has ruled for 10,000 years. But 50 light-years away from the battle, Fleet Commander Young-Soo Choi was preparing humanity's most important weapon. It was not a gun or a bomb or a ship. It was knowledge. Are you ready, Dr. Nam? Commander Choi asked. Dr. Hee-jin Nam stood before a device that looked like a large mirror made of flowing light. This was humanity's greatest achievement, a machine that could show possible futures to anyone who looked into it. They called it the probability engine. I've calculated 17 different future scenarios, Dr. Nam replied. All of them lead to the same conclusion. The Velcaran Empire can either evolve or die. There are no other options. The massive alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Earth's solar system. Thekvon expected to see the same defensive positions that had trapped his first attack. Instead, he saw something that made his hands shake with fear. The human fleet was waiting for them in perfect formation. But these were not the same ships he had encountered before. These new vessels were impossibly beautiful. They looked like they were made from crystallized starlight itself. They moved through space like living things, flowing and dancing instead of flying in straight lines. "Sir," his scanner operator reported, "I'm getting impossible readings from the human ships." "What kind of readings?" "They're not made of normal matter, sir. They seem to exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. Our weapons might not be able to damage them at all." Before Thekvon could respond, every screen in his fleet received the same message. It showed a human officer standing in what looked like a garden full of alien plants and trees. "Greetings, War Marshal Thekvon," the human said. "I am Fleet Commander Young-Soo Choi. We meet under unfortunate circumstances, but I hope we can still find a peaceful solution." Thekvon activated his communication system. "Human, you have destroyed my empire with your lies and tricks. Today your species will pay for what you have done." Commander Choi looked sad but not surprised. "I understand your anger, War Marshal. But before we begin fighting, I would like to show you something. It might change how you feel about this war." "I will see no human tricks." "It is not a trick," Commander Choi replied gently. "It is a gift. We call it the probability engine. It shows possible futures based on the choices we make today. Would you like to see what happens if this battle continues?" Despite his anger, Thekvon was curious about this strange human technology. "Show me." The space around both fleets suddenly changed. Instead of empty darkness, they were surrounded by images that moved and shifted like dreams made visible. Thekvon could see himself giving orders to attack, could see his ships firing their weapons, could see the battle that was about to begin, but he could also see what came after. In the first vision, his fleet attacked and won. Earth was destroyed and all humans were dead. But then the vision showed what happened next. The rest of the galaxy saw that the Velkaran Empire had returned to its old ways of solving problems through violence. One by one, the worlds that had joined the human alliance were conquered again. But the people on those worlds remembered what life had been like with human help. They rebelled constantly. The Empire spent all its resources fighting rebellions instead of building a better future. Within 100 years, Velkaran civilization collapsed completely. The second vision showed his fleet attacking and losing. The battle was short. Human technology was simply too advanced. But in this future, the surviving Velkaran leaders became so afraid of human power that they attacked other species, trying to build alliances against humanity. This led to a galactic war that lasted for centuries. Billions died. Entire civilizations were destroyed. When the war finally ended, the galaxy was a wasteland of dead planets and broken dreams. But the third vision was different. In this future, Thekvon chose not to attack. Instead, he talked with the human leaders. He learned about their technology, their philosophy, their dreams for the future. He saw Velkaran worlds where people lived longer, healthier, happier lives because of human help. He saw alien children playing games that had been invented by human and alien friends working together. He saw a galaxy where different species competed not to conquer each other, but to see who could create the most beautiful art, solve the most difficult problems, and explore the most distant stars. "This is impossible," Thekvon whispered, but he could not stop watching the visions. The third future showed him meeting with leaders from across the galaxy in a great council where every species had an equal voice. He saw Velkaran scientists working with human engineers to build ships that could travel to other galaxies. He saw his own people, free from the fear that had driven them to build an empire, discovering talents and abilities they had never known they possessed. But the most amazing part of the vision was seeing his own reflection in a mirror 10 years in the future. The Thekvon in the vision looked younger, happier, and more alive than he had felt in centuries. Instead of armor designed for war, he wore clothes designed for exploration. Instead of weapons, he carried tools for building new worlds. "Is this real?" Thekvon asked. "Can these futures actually happen?" Dr. Hee-Jin Nam appeared beside Commander Choi on the communication screen. "The probability engine shows us what is possible, not what is certain," she explained. "These futures will only happen if we make the choices that lead to them." "And what choice must I make?" Commander Choi stepped forward. "The same choice that humanity made 3,000 years ago when we accepted exile. You must choose to change. Change how?" "The Velkaran Empire was built on the idea that some species are meant to rule over others," Dr. Nam said. "But what if that idea is wrong? What if every species has something valuable to contribute? What if the galaxy would be stronger if we worked together instead of fighting each other? Tekfon looked around at his vast fleet. 10 million ships filled with soldiers who were ready to die for the Empire. But for the first time in his life, he wondered if there might be something worth living for instead. If I choose peace, he asked slowly, what happens to my people? What happens to the Velkaran Empire? Your empire becomes something better, Commander Choi replied. It becomes the Velkaran Republic, where your people choose their own leaders and make their own laws. Your worlds become healthy and prosperous. Your children grow up in a galaxy where they can become anything they dream of being. The visions around them changed to show specific examples. Velkaran children were learning in schools that taught them to think for themselves instead of just following orders. Velkaran adults were creating new forms of music and art that had never existed before. Velkaran scientists were making discoveries that helped everyone in the galaxy live better lives. But you would still be more advanced than us, Tekfon said. How do I know you would not eventually become our new rulers? Dr. Nam smiled. Because we have learned something very important during our 3,000 years of isolation. The best way to be powerful is to help others become powerful too. A galaxy full of strong, independent civilizations is much more interesting than a galaxy full of subjects. Show him the final vision, Commander Choi said. The images around them changed one last time. This vision showed the most distant future of all, 1,000 years from now. Humans and Velkarans and dozens of other species were working together to build ships that could travel to entirely different universes. They had solved every problem that currently seemed impossible: disease, poverty, war, even death itself. The galaxy had become a place where every living being could grow and learn and become more than they had ever imagined possible. But the most beautiful part of this vision was that humans were not the leaders of this incredible future. Every species contributed equally. Humans brought their talent for solving problems. Velkarans brought their skill at organizing large groups. Other species brought their own unique gifts. Together they had created something that none of them could have built alone. This is what we offer you, Commander Choi said. Not conquest. Not submission. Partnership. Tekfon was quiet for a long time, studying the visions of possible futures. His officers waited nervously for his orders. 10 million ships could attack at any moment and begin